All right, hi everybody. Sorry about that. I'm waiting. My dog is at my feet and he's scratching his way to comfort in a little box lid that belongs to him under there, and he can't seem to get comfortable. So I'm waiting and waiting for him to stop scratching before I turn my audio on, and he is not cooperating. So I am anyway, we might just have to hear him scratching for a little bit. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me tonight, whether you're here live or recording later. And now he's going to move. He didn't even want to lay down there after all, so that's the way it goes. Anyway, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Lynn Barrette, licensed clinical social worker and therapist, spiritual counselor. Happy to be here with all of you tonight again. Some interesting developments have happened in the last couple of days that made me kind of switch up my plan for tonight. We will still do our meditation at the end, but there's some things I wanted to address that came to mind this week for me, and then was reinforced by an email I received this morning from Dr. David Grand, who is the formulator of Brainspotting, that just confirmed my need to talk about it tonight for us. So anyway, now that I have you all intrigued, I'm going to share my screen. So because this all came up so fast, my PowerPoint was a little slapdash. So you'll have to forgive that. I'm trying to think, oh, there's my share screen button. Okay. So let's get this up here for us, and I will start our slideshow. There's got to be a faster way to do this, but I have not figured it out yet. All right. So I do want to check in with everybody first to ask you how your week has been and what's been different for you this week. This is really our second full official week, this past week, right, of sheltering in place. And it's been extended through April 30th. And perhaps beyond, we'll see, but just wanted to check in with you about what's been different. And then I invite you to follow along in the chat, because this is about sharing also. I don't know why my thing just stopped, but okay, let me look at the chat here. So peaceful, good. Peaceful most of the time, weird. School employee, back to work with online, doing it in a whole new way. Everybody's had to learn really fast in our school systems for sure. Self-structuring without going to work and being in that structured environment has been challenging, yes. Working more online, not a good thing. Okay, busy with work and home. Lazy, that's not such a bad thing sometimes. Being able to talk to friends finally outside of class, good. Good. Yeah, that's very important to have that connection. Confusing with news from CDC about masks. Yep. Cabin fever. Yes. Okay, so you're in your third week of isolation, and the impact is kicking in. Talking to people in the house has helped. Need more distancing from the refrigerator. I imagine we all feel that way. Trying to get structure to our days, to talk with friends, yeah. And yeah, not enough outside time. Hopefully our weather's going to cooperate too, so we can have a little bit more. Scary when having to go to the store for curbside. Yeah. Yeah. All right, and since my PowerPoint doesn't want to cooperate, I'm just going to go ahead and go to our next screen on that. All right, so how are you supporting yourself through these times? You know, if you're feeling that lack of structure, what are you doing? Oh, my dad said he's missing his kids. I miss you too, Dad. How are you how are you helping yourself with that structure? What kinds of things are you doing to kind of get that structure into your day? You know, or if you need more outdoor time, what are you doing to create that for yourself? Phone, internet, Zoom, making lists, good. Deep breathing, good. A lot more trombone, practicing your instrument. That creativity is so important right now because it's part of that productivity we talked about in the first week of, you know, that creativity and that productivity helps us feel like we're moving forward, even when we're in our homes. We are moving forward, but having that activity helps us kind of embody that momentum. Yeah, making the bed in the morning. Yes, good, good. That is a good way to start the day. Meditation, cooking, yes. And that's cooking is very creative also. I love cooking. I am that weird person who loves chopping vegetables and fruit and, you know, just anything I can chop, I love it. Delivering cooked meals to a relative, that's wonderful, wonderful, good. And what are you learning about yourselves through all of this? Having to pull on those resources, having to get creative and figuring out different ways of doing things. How are you, or what are you learning about yourselves? Or maybe we're still working on that one. That's okay. Keeping the humor. Yes. Yes. Mhm. Some people don't feel managing isolation is so hard. That's great. That I'm good company with myself. That's good. More emotionally resilient. Awesome. Than you thought before. Being more patient. More resilient than I thought. Beautiful. Beautiful. Excellent. That is great. That is great. Good. Thank you all for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and go to our next screen. Feel free to keep adding things down there. Resume slideshow. That was a nice little option there. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed, and I'm going to start this off by sharing a little bit about my week, and it's actually just a couple of days ago. On Friday, I was able to do a store run for the first time. You know, my son has been doing it, my significant other has been doing it, and the only other time I had been out of the house was to go for a walk before that, and to go to my office. I had to go to my office to pick up the mail, so I figured I would stop at the grocery store anyway. And it's so strange, and I really related with a person who shared that, you know, it's even scary going to pick things up curbside, because I realize that just trying to follow the rules, and there's so much unknown about the virus and how it spread, and do we wear a mask? Like somebody mentioned, do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? There's lots of questions, you know, there's lots of unknown that is going on. So I I went and I picked up my mail from work and I went to the store and I was actually wearing this scarf and I had it, you know, kind of around my face a little bit and I had my green kitchen rubber gloves on and, you know, trying to do my part in you know, helping everybody be safe. And I was really aware of who was around me more than usual, right? Because we're supposed to have 6 feet. Not everybody is doing that, apparently. So that was surprising to me. And even though I've been hearing about that on the news, it's different in person. You know, it's very different in person to be experiencing those things than hearing it on NPR or whatever. And one the first thing that happened that was very strange was that I'm in the grocery store and you know I'm getting our list of things that we have to get and I go to a shelf to get some hummus and I come back and I start pushing a cart I put the hummus in a cart, and then I start pushing a cart, and it wasn't mine. I got halfway down an aisle, and this gentleman came up behind me and said, "I think that's my cart." I'm like, I look in the cart, and there's nothing familiar in that cart whatsoever. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go back around the corner, and he was very nice about it. I go back around the corner, and I find my cart that was like 3 times as full as his was. There's no similarity besides the structure of the cart that it had in common. Okay, so I'm like, well, that was weird. Not that I haven't done that before, but it was, there's just a little bit more anxiety around it, like germs and different things. I am not a germaphobe either, by the way. I am really pretty casual when it comes to germs. I don't care. I'll be fine. So there was that situation. And then I came home, and I was backing into the driveway, so it was easier to carry the groceries in. And I pulled onto the grass, and my car was halfway on the grass and halfway on the driveway. And I can parallel park like a goddess in the city when I go to my city office. And so I'm really good I used to drive a school bus when I was in college and working for a YMCA summer camp, so I know how to drive things. So when I realized I was halfway in the grass, it was really disturbing to me because I'm like, how did I even do that? And so I was thinking about it for the rest of the day because I do that. I'm a therapist. I'm going to be thinking about these things, like what was going on in my head. And what I realized is the level of anxiety internal that was subtle but there. I didn't feel anxious, I didn't feel afraid, but it was there. That hyper alertness was there, and it was happening. And what I realized is that I was dissociating a little bit from what was happening in my world because my mind body system was worried about staying safe and keeping other people safe and making sure other people were comfortable with me and what I was doing. And so there's this whole other thing going on besides shopping. There's this whole other thing going on besides backing into my driveway like a sane person. It's just a whole different experience. um, so I was thinking about this and thinking, this is really important because I bet I'm not the only person who is going through this right now. So I wanted to talk about it. And then this morning when I woke up, there was an email from David Grand to the Brainspotting consultants talking about what Brainspotting is going to do going forward. Where we used to have only our trainings in person, they're now going to be online, and because Brainspotting is the beautiful tool that it is, he wants people to continue to be trained in it because we need it now more than ever. So that was part of his email. And another part was a link to something that I'm going to share with you in a little bit, and some points that he made in that as kind of a podcast, video cast online. But one of the things I want to go over first is a couple of definitions so we know kind of what we're talking about. We're all on the same page with it. So one is, what is dissociation? And dissociation, which is a word I used a little while ago to talk about my state of mind, was a separation. This is just a definition I got offline. It's a separation of normally related mental processes resulting in one group functioning independently from the rest. So what does that mean? It's kind of like what we talked about a couple of weeks ago and last week. When we're in our emotions, our prefrontal cortex, the logical part of our brain, goes offline a little bit. It starts to take less priority than what's coming up for us in our emotions. That's why if we want to make a clear decision, it's really important for us to calm our mind-body system and our emotions so that we can make sure we're thinking from our rational mind. So what this definition is telling us is that dissociation is when all of the brain functionings aren't in sync, and the mind body system is feeling the necessity to shut some processes down a little bit, just kind of turn them down a little bit so that the survival mode can come into play and take care of us. It's actually a beautiful thing that the mind-body system does. It's a protective mechanism that is built into us that is very important. It's a survival, it's a protective part of us, and we all do that. We all have that dissociation potential in us, and we all dissociate sometimes. Dissociation used to be kind of the scary word that meant that somebody has so much trauma in their past that they're not really all together here with us today. And certainly that can be true, but dissociation is kind of on a continuum, right? And we all dissociate. If you have ever read a book or you're watching a TV show and somebody's talking to you over here and telling the story and you don't hear them at all, that's a dissociation, right? We're dissociating our part of our listening input, part of our brain, because we're so incredibly focused on the TV show or the book that we're reading. Or if you have been driving to a place that you drive to all the time, to work or to, your home from somewhere, and you've just made this drive so many times that you don't even remember how you got from where you started to your destination, because you're thinking about other things, and your mind-body system knew how to get there, so it didn't really need to be paying that much attention because it thinks, right? We should always be paying attention while we're driving, but there's a part of your brain that took over that just knew all the muscle memory of the drive. So we all have dissociated at some point, and it's something that kicks in when our mind-body system needs to protect us from something. So trauma, when we talk about trauma is a situation that's shocking to the system that gets stored in the mind-body system. So that can be anything. Again, we think of trauma or post-traumatic stress disorder, and we think of the soldier in battle, or we think of somebody who was horribly abused as a child. And in therapy land, we call that kind of trauma with a capital T. And then the other kinds of trauma that fall into the other part of the continuum, trauma with a lowercase t. So anytime you've ever had an experience that was shocking to you, we talked about how in neuroscience we say if it fires together, it wires together. And to a certain, that's not fully true, but to a certain extent it is. And so that gets stored in the mind-body system. So for example, when I was in 3rd grade, might have been 4th grade, I had the same teacher for both grades. I think it might have been in 4th grade actually. One of my favorite teachers, I was talking to friends one day, and a lot apparently, and she said to me, she was in a reading group and I was talking, and probably loudly, and she said, "Lynn, you have not been worth 2 cents today." And I've actually done brain spotting on this since then, but for a long time, even in my adulthood, every time I would think of that memory, I would feel the sharp pain in my heart that I felt when she first said it to me. Like, I thought you liked me, and I like you. How could you say something to me like that? And it was shocking, and so it got stored in my system. She was probably right, but that's beside the point, right? The point was that it was a shock to the system. I felt totally alone in that moment, which we do when we have those shocks to our system. We are alone inside of us experiencing that and storing that. Okay, so those are a couple of definitions I wanted to make sure we were on the same page with. So the videocast, podcast, I don't know what we're calling it nowadays. There's an audio recording of this that I'm going to send to you when you get the recording. And there's a video of this also that I highly recommend that you watch, and I will send the link. But David Grand is the gentleman on the right in the picture, and these are just some of the highlights from his talk with this woman um, about his talk was called Surrender to Uncertainty. And we are all in a time of uncertainty. We have no idea what's going on. We're all having to kind of make things up as we go. And it's it's shocking because it's not what we expected. We don't have a place in our mind body system where what's happening right now can fit, and we can draw from those resources. We can draw from those resources, but we still have to make everything up as we go along. So there's a trauma, and he calls it existential trauma, right? Because we are all feeling it. It's not just about my problems. It's not just about your problems. It's not just about the issue that's been happening for years, or whatever. It's about everybody is going through this, and if there are probably 2 or 3 people you could resonate in those chats that I was reading, that you're experiencing those same things as other people are. And of course there's different kinds of people, so we're going to have our different experiences. The introverts are going to have a shared experience a little bit more than the extroverts who need more social time, and so forth, but we're basically all in this together. So these are the tidbits that she drew from David's talk, that I wanted to share because it was just so much like what I was wanting to share anyway, and it was just a beautiful synchronicity. So one of the things that David talks about is, during this period of existential trauma, we may experience states such as dissociation, shutdown, denial, and hypervigilance. So what I was describing that happened to me was this dissociation. Like, there's a part of my brain that was so trying to follow all the rules and make sure I was safe and make sure other people were safe, and not really knowing how to do it, that the part of my brain that needed to identify my shopping cart and the part of my brain that needed to back into the driveway on the cement and not the grass was just not deemed as necessary as the part of my brain that was in that hyper vigilant state. And so it dissociated from one in order to add and fuel the hyper vigilant state that I was in at that time. So feel free to jump in with questions if you have any as we go. I'm just going to kind of keep going through this, and I want to get to our meditation time too. So time distortion is due to being in the subcortex of the brain. If you can see the picture below, the neocortex, the limbic system, and the reptilian brain, the limbic system and reptilian brain are what we call the subcortex of the brain. Okay, so the neocortex is the rational mind, it's our language, it's our balance, our where we are in physical space and time. So when we feel kind of out of it and we get into that dissociative state, it's because our mind body system focus is in that limbic system, that reptilian brain, for survival. So time is in the neocortex. Our relative space that we take up and where we are in space is also in the neocortex. So that inner brain, that subcortical brain, is our survival mechanism. So we can lose track of time. My boyfriend was talking about not being able to remember things, and and just during this time, and just having a hard time. All of us having a hard time keeping track of some of the more logistical things in our world. So this existential trauma that we're all experiencing is pressing on any underlying traumas that we're still processing from our history. He said childhood here, but it can be from 10 years ago. It doesn't have to be from young childhood system. So it's pressing on all that. It's pressing on our sense of feeling out of control. It's pressing on any feelings of abandonment. It's pressing on any feelings of isolation that we have felt and hasn't been processed for us. I'm not talking about the isolation in the people who love that, you know, and are happy with that. I'm talking about the isolation that is pushing on unprocessed life experience, okay? And number 4 is this is not the time to make big decisions because all of our stuff is coming up and we have to make plenty of big decisions now anyway. You know, I had to make the decision to move all my clients quickly as possible to online sessions for our stay-at-home shelter-in-place ordinance. But it's not the time to make decisions. This is not the time to find a new job. This is not the time to jump into marriage with somebody or break up with somebody or move to a new city, or you know, it's not the time for big decisions because our, whether we are aware of it or not, our mind body system is busy surviving. So the decisions from our rational mind that we make, our rational mind is only on board once in a while right now, and we can't really count on that, honestly. So it's not the time to make big life decisions, but you know, anyway, I don't know if there's a but to that, but I'm going to check on our chat here. All right. Forgetfulness, people experiencing do I mean pressing on brain spots that are as existential situation right now, pressing on brain spots? Yeah, a brain spot is the place in our field of vision where we have access to that storage. So when I say it's pressing on our, what did he say here? It's pressing on, let me move that out of the way, on that underlying trauma. So it's pressing on our storage. Anything unprocessed in our mind-body system, what's happening now is going to be pressing on. So it's going to be up more for us, which is great, like we talked about last week, where our triggers are our best friends, right? Because our triggers are saying, hey, I'm an unprocessed piece of emotional stuff inside of you, and this is an opportunity for you to work on it and release it and heal it. So we can use this time for that versus maybe when a pandemic isn't happen, we might feel triggered by something and then just kind of brush it away or ignore it or avoid it. So that's what it's pressing on. All right. Yeah, hard time focusing, absolutely, because our focus is right here in our prefrontal cortex and that neocortex. So what David Gran says that this is, however, a time to set priorities and reevaluate what's important, which we talked about the first week also. We're being forced to evaluate what is important, what is not important, whether we want to evaluate it or not. We are being required to do so, and everybody is. All right. Okay. So we must slow down, be curious, and observe. If I had been aware that I was going to experience what I experienced when I went to the grocery store, I would have made sure, and next time I will make sure that I'm a lot more grounded than I was before. But I don't fault myself for not being grounded before because I had no idea that's how my mind body system was going to respond to that. But slowing down and being curious and observing and being present in the body and in the present moment, like he says in number 8, allows us to be on an alert that's more conscious versus that subcortical hyper vigilance where it's like, okay, I've got to protect myself. I've got to protect myself. Who's going to, who's going to touch me? Who's going to get, 5 feet from me instead of being 6 feet from me, and, all of that. But being present and mindful and grounded about where we are in every single moment. Every single moment. And I love what he says in number 7. I'm kind of skipping around here, but we are safe in the present moment. We really are safe in the present moment. And we have to bring ourselves back from Mm, I would, he goes on here about a few things that I'll address in a minute, but bring ourselves back from fear is what I want to say right now. That's the biggest thing, is bringing ourselves down from anxiety. There's so many things out there about conspiracies and this and that, and the information is changing all the time. Even the factual information that we know is changing all the time. So it's important to find out what we need to find out about the facts and put ourselves right here where we are right now. Okay, given these facts, what do I need to do to take care of myself? What do I need to do to take care of my family, my immediate family that is here with me? What do I need to do if I need to go out and get groceries to protect myself, but to protect everybody else, and be thinking about that in a mindful, grounded way, so that we are engaging our rational mind, because that rational mind is very earthy and can help us be right here, right now, and clearer than when we're coming from that survival mode inside of us. So I'm going to check on our questions if I can find where the chat went. Keeps disappearing on me. All right. Like the spiritual thermometer, that's great. I will make sure you have a link to that when I send out the recording too. Yeah, so people are feeling lethargic and unfocused and not accomplishing much, and it feels like it's moving through mud. Yes, that's exactly, our emotions, and that survival mode is so so beautifully ingrained in our mind-body system. Again, it's there for a purpose, and it's there for a very beautiful purpose, but it just doesn't always cooperate with our rational mind, because it was created to protect us from things we don't have to be protected from anymore. Saber-toothed tigers and cheetahs chasing us, and all that kind of stuff, rather than, we can use our human rational mind to be able to take information and discern when we need to run from a cheetah and when we just need to do what is ours to do in front of us. And that's what makes us human. That's what makes us that's what helps us evolve too, is that rational mind, because that rational mind is just the step that we need to engage so that our intuitive mind can come forth as well. So because, I'm going to go back to number 7 here, because this experience that we're all in right now with the pandemic is pressing on our history, and our history is different for each one of us. So that's going to be what shows up differently for us. Like for me, it's, not really being present in my mind body as much as I should have been while I was driving my car. But whatever it's going to push on in you is going to be different. And the thing that I wanted to talk about this mainly for is because I had no idea. I've done a lot of work on myself over the years, and I had no idea that was what was going to happen to me. So it just made me aware of, like, oh my gosh, we really don't know what this is going to push on us. We have no idea what this is going to push on us. So the more we can say, okay, I am going to have no idea how this is going to affect me, then the more we can be mindful of it and watching for it. Like, okay, I'm forgetting things right now. Maybe I just need to be easy on myself, because this is a really stressful time, and more stressful than I'm giving it credit for. So be watching for familiar feelings about what this is bringing up for you from the past, or anxieties about the future, and focus on the here and now, which is so much easier said than done, but it's important, especially right now, because we want to be above that 5 on the spiritual thermometer, and not stuck in our past emotions or our worries about the future. And we have to be aware when we're there. So being aware of, like, okay, how could this possibly be affecting me? Or if we do something out of character, you know, that we go, okay, well, I wonder if that is because of what's going on, and what is that pushing on in me? What can I take from this? What lesson can I take from this? What healing can I work with through this process? All right, let me check out our chat here before I go into the next one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're all feeling kind of slowing down and walking through molasses, and um, let me look up at this one up here. I want to see that a little bit. Yeah, and I don't think, you know, it's hard to grasp with with our minds because we've never gone through anything like this before. It's hard to grasp the reality of it, you know, it because it sounds like a movie that maybe we would go and watch or maybe we wouldn't. You know, I shared before that I am not I am not a zombie show person. I really don't care for those, but I can certainly feel like I'm in the middle of one sometimes, you know, because it's so unreal. It seems so unreal. The facts are always changing, like somebody shared. And, um, you know, we're having to process things very quickly and move with it very quickly. And we're not used to that. We're used to being able to pretty much do whatever we want to most of the time. So yeah, in adversity, there's opportunity was the last one from that last slide. So the opportunity is we have opportunities to heal. We have opportunities to look at things that we didn't even know were stored inside of us. Um, we have opportunities to get lists done that have been, you know, things done on our list that have been there for years. We have the opportunity to um, be creative, embrace hobbies or movies, cleaning, cooking, anything that focuses your attention and allows you to ground yourself and to be here now. You know, I certainly want to make sure that when I'm chopping vegetables, I am fully in my body and fully present and not thinking about anything else. It's a lot easier when I'm home. You know, when I'm home, I have not felt that quite as much. A little bit still, but not like I did when I actually left the house for the first time in a week and a half. So, um, you know, something that will focus and ground you. Um, Nature is wonderful. You know, the flowers are blooming. I've got daffodils in my front garden, um, and it's so beautiful to see. When I did go for a walk about a week ago now, the crocus were coming out. Crocuses, croci, I don't even know, but beautiful, our beautiful fresh spring flowers are coming up, and that's grounding to us too. And there's actually, just as a side note, there is a bacteria in dirt that makes us feel happy. It just elicits our happiness brain chemistry. So the more you can be in the dirt in your yard, the happier you're going to feel if that's the kind of thing you like. I imagine there's a point of no return there too. Be generous to yourself, be generous to others. I have just loved seeing all the um, free resources coming out for people and the people stepping forward to share and help other people. And being generous with ourselves, being patient with ourselves, being generous. You know, I have decided that I'm cutting an hour off of my day during the week because doing online counseling is a lot more strenuous than being in person with somebody because there's a difference in what I can pick up just in that intuitive, instinctual sense when I'm with somebody in person than online. It's a lot harder. I have to use my other senses and rely on my other senses a lot more when I'm on screen with somebody, and it's draining by the end of the day. So one thing I'm doing for myself is I'm working an hour less each day. And I'm doing that for my last client of the day too, because they don't want to spend me any more than I want to spend me in that last hour. So that's something that I'm doing for myself. And we really are in a major reset period and an opportunity for a paradigm shift, and not just an opportunity, but a forced paradigm shift that is occurring right now. And Dr. Grand talked about brain spotting, and brain spotting is based, and this really isn't a commercial for brain spotting, even though I love it. But brain spotting is, brain spotting incorporates the uncertainty principle, which means that we don't know what's going to happen during a brain spotting session, but we know that the mind body system does, and there's a trust, and there's a, you know, a faith in the process, and a faith in the fact that the mind body system knows to heal itself. So if we just go with it and we just be flexible with it, then we know something beautiful is going to come through. So he's associating that uncertainty principle with what's happening now. And if we can cooperate with it and embrace it and go, okay, I need to move all my clients online. Awesome. And what he had to do is say, okay, we're going to move all of our trainings online versus in person. And so, okay, we're going to do it. The more we can cooperate with that and flow with it, then the more gracefully we can move through this time. And we can see that in other people. Sometimes it's easier to see it in other people where there's resistance, there's problems, right? There's issues, there's problems. It interferes with everything else, and there's a ripple effect to that. But when we can cooperate it with what's happening, there's a ripple effect to that, and there's a lot less stress that we need to go through when we're cooperating with what we need to be right now, with the changes. And next week, one thing I would like to do, and we'll see what happens between now and then, but my plan right now is to do some grief work on our life before the pandemic. And we're in this kind of transition period. We don't really know what life is going to be like after, right? How is it going to be different? Are we going to be working from home more? As many people going to be walking through my neighborhood as they are during this time, and I've never seen these people before in my life, so there's just lots of changes going on. But we've had to give up a lot already, and just in the last month we've all had to give up and change a lot already. Even if your life doesn't seem that much different, your neighborhood is, your community is, your country is, your world is, and so we have changed so much already. So I'm thinking of maybe doing something addressing that next week. But we'll see. We'll see what happens between now and then. All right, so I'm going to address the chat here. Okay, yeah, the Earth's slowing down. It's almost like we're in the kind of slow motion a little bit. Yeah, brain spot using last week's webinar. That's a great idea, Mary. Using last week's webinar as, just a guided meditation, using the brain spot that feels the most grounding to you, or feels like, hey, this is where I feel the most secure. Let's brain spot with that and magnify that. That's a great idea. Great idea. All right. I don't know who Dan Harris is, but there's a video conference with him, founder of 10%.com. That sounds familiar, but I can't pull it out of my brain right now. So you can let us know more about that. Yeah, air is great, nature. Somebody's commenting on my Taurian self. Yeah, okay. 10% happier. Okay. He's on Good Morning America on the weekend. Okay. All right, so if anybody's interested, that is there. So any questions about this? Any questions about, how, maybe I should ask you, how do you, me shared a little bit along the way too, but, do you feel like this was helpful information to you? Do you feel like, that's not exactly the feedback I'm looking for, but like, can you see in yourself, I guess that's what I want to know. Can you see in yourself where this pandemic that's happening has affected you in ways that maybe you thought, oh my gosh, I must be going crazy, or I'm, not in the clinical sense, but just in the general human sense. But now you can see that, oh my gosh, this probably has to do with the stress of what's happening. That's kind of what I'm hoping for anyway for tonight, that part of our tonight. All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So now we are going to completely switch gears and go to our meditation. All right. Where's my pointer? There it is. All right. So because that was a lot of heady information, I'm going to ease us more into our meditation time. That was a lot of information. I want to ease us more into our meditation time. So we're going to take all of our techniques that we've learned so far. We're going to start with our quick breath. And I invite you to incorporate an eye position during the meditation if that feels right to you to do. Otherwise, we're going to have an experience now of expanding our consciousness. I talk a lot about the mind-body system because it's earthy and concrete, and it's what we have to deal with every day. But also on my spiritual counseling side, there is consciousness that holds all of us together, and that's our awareness. And the more aware we can be, the more energy we hold, the more conscious we are. And that's, we are wired to be more conscious. So this meditation is just kind of help us expand outside of ourselves and embrace our planet right now. We're going to gradually expand from the center of our hearts all the way out, just a little at a time, all the way out to our solar system. And I invite you to just, wherever you feel like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I have to stay right here and I can't go any farther right now, that's just what I'm led to do, then stay there and cooperate with your inner sense of what's happening for you inside as we do this. But we're going to start with a quick breath. And that's where we breathe in to the count of 4 and breathe out to the count of 4. Let's do that together to your own count. There goes my dog again. He's getting settled in for meditation too. Breathing in to the count of 4. Breathing out to the count of 4. Getting back into our bodies, back into that rhythm. And when you feel like you have a good rhythm with that, put your attention on the tip of your heart. Just imagine your physical heart and where the top of it would be. And it always helps me to put my finger where that might be in kind of the center of my sternum, a little bit above center. And continue that breath in for 4, out for 4. Put that attention in your heart center. And in that center, I invite you to picture a light, a flame, a light that is bright but doesn't burn. And when you can feel that in the center of your heart or picture it there, and if you want to find an eye position in your room where that feels the strongest, you can. Just let your eyes move in front of you. And rest where you feel they are locking you in place, with that heart center feeling strong. And then feel that light growing in your chest cavity, growing through your torso and shoulders, your legs, arms, your head, so it surrounds you. Feel it all around you. And let it continue to grow, encompassing the chair that you're sitting in, the room that you're in, your home, touching anyone else who's there with you. And just feel yourself right now. Be aware of your awareness all throughout your home. And let that continue to grow through your yard or building, through the neighbors, their homes, and touching them as they shelter in place. Let it expand to your whole street, your block, your neighborhood. And if I'm going too fast, just take your time with it. Just feel it expanding. Let it keep rolling out in every direction to your whole city. And now the city surrounding yours, your county, through the county surrounding you, through your whole state. We just take a moment in our own state to just feel the love and compassion that we're holding for each person. Knowing through feeling without knowing through information that we're all in this together. And now let this love and this light move through the surrounding states. Bodies of water. Let it grow throughout your region. Whatever you consider that to be, it doesn't matter. And if you're in a northern state, maybe you can feel that extending to our northern Canadian neighbors. Or if you're in the south, to the oceans and Mexico. Feel your whole region filled with light. And we're adding to each other's energy as we do this too. So you may feel like it's moving faster because it is throughout our whole country. Maine to California, Wisconsin to Texas, Florida to Washington, every direction. And we pause here with that love and compassion. Maybe we're aware of what needs to be healed. We can just add our love and goodwill to that. And we acknowledge also all those who are reaching out and helping each other. And we add our love and light and gratitude to that. And now continuing to our continent, fully embracing Canada and Mexico and all of our Central American brothers and sisters. Feel that unity. And continuing on, embracing South America, the Arctic, the Antarctic, all our wildlife, in the ocean and outside of the ocean. Extending through Africa, Australia, Europe, and Asia. Just feel the whole planet vibrating with this light and this love, this compassion. And we extend our awareness right now just beyond our atmosphere, holding the whole beautiful planet in this light. And from this perspective, nothing seems more important than that love and compassion. That love and compassion, that light is holding each individual, billions of people. And we breathe them into our own breath from this global perspective. Sinking together. Synchronizing together. And if you feel so moved, let your awareness extend even beyond the earth, encompassing our solar system, each beautiful star and planet. Feel the peace, the quiet, the wisdom, the order. And now that we know we can stretch this far, this is always available to us. And we prepare for our return, leaving a little of ourselves out here as far as we could stretch. And feeling your presence returning slowly, a little at a time, back to the outreaches of our planet, our atmosphere, our beautiful continents, back to our own, back to our own country, our own region, our own surrounding states, back to our own state. You may begin to be a little bit more present in your body as well, and just feel that whole beautiful planet, beautiful solar system in every cell of your body as you come back to your own city, your own neighborhood, your own street, your own home, the room you're sitting in, the chair you're sitting in, and feel the tingling in your body as you let your awareness be in your own body. Perhaps there's tingling in your feet or your head, your hands, your heart. Just feel that energy swirling in every cell of your body. And be aware of your breath now. Whatever rhythm it has relaxed into, just notice that. Notice that center of your heart. And take a deep breath or two when you're ready. And open your eyes whenever it suits you. And I'm not going to do too much talking now. I'm just going to let us leave on that note. My love to you all. Thank you for participating in that. It made a huge difference that you were here tonight. And those of you who are watching this on the recording, your intention to be with us at some point makes a huge difference too. It's all part of what we're doing to support each other. So thank you, bless you,
And I will see you all hopefully next week. And I will send out an email during the week with our next link and information on whatever the heck we're going to be doing next week. All right. Bye-bye.